Well, hello everyone. Happy Thursday, the 17th of, what is this month? April, tax month? Is that what you say it is? Yes, it is. Did you get a reprieve? Depending on what state you're in, you may have gotten a little bit of a free delay. Anyway, well, we got that. We're just 2 days past April 15th, and I hope you're having a good one. Here we are having a discussion today on how the Trump tariffs are good for home buyers, but you got to stick around to the end till we get to it. If you like this content, please go to CallDelToSell.com, find the tab that says on YouTube, click it, and it'll open up a page of QR codes. There you can use a smartphone to scan and get to the YouTube page, or you can just mouse over and click it on a PC. There you'll be able to subscribe to this little button over here and click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you when each Friday's blog has been uploaded. Thank you. Alrighty, now if you watch me, I talk about people ticks. Now, people ticks is how politics and economics affects the person, the home body, the person, the family, the cat around town, whatever you might have in your situation. It's not about endorsing candidates or promoting any one thing. It's just an observance of how political theater and behavior often affects our economy and our people. Now, I want to say I am very happy to see the Trump tariffs are pushing jobs back into Smyrna, Tennessee, helping maybe keeping Nissan going here locally. That's going to help a lot of people because it's going to filter down to all of the other little plants that feed it and that sort of thing. So I think that's good. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I like everything about what I'm hearing. And what do I tell you about? Never shut your ears off to information, but just learn to recognize bias. We all have it. We can't live without it. It's like air, but we can recognize if it's clean air or dirty air. So what do you say we look at this right here coming up? Well, here we have something from, believe it or not, look where I went to get this, the Times of India today, okay? Because the world is truly watching what is going on here. They're watching. And what Trump is signaling isn't so much a war with China. It's almost like the scene in, what was it, Lord of the Rings, where they have the guy standing on his sword. He says, war is upon you, whether you'll have it or not is irrelevant. So that's kind of what we got. Xi Jinping seems to want to try to flex and hold his face, which is a Chinese term for appearance or whatever. He's trying to play the big strong guy for a country that's in terrible financial shape and desperately tied to the rest of the world for their buying of their exports. And what Trump has been doing, quite honestly, is meeting with everybody else in the world and saying, look, we want to make good deals. We want to be fair. What we want is fair trade, not necessarily one-sided, lopsided. And they're talking about it. So when we go to the Times of India, as we have here, it's talking Trump, tariffs, live updates. We'll make a very good deal with China. He's telling the whole world, I'm not the bad guy. I'm willing to work with you. I don't really work with them. But China's a bully, and they're trying to take it out on everyone. They had met with, I think last week we talked about it, they met with or tried to talk to Australia, team up with us against them, and everybody realizes that China's the bully, not the U.S., and so they're like, yeah, we can see Trump trying to make a deal where, we get tariffs balanced on each side, and it may be that some industries will be more tariffed than others just to keep the trade more balanced or more equitable. So we saw that with Australia reject them. They went to the EU, which is something we're talking about here. Italy's Meloni says, sure deal can be made with on U.S. tariffs. See, China went to the EU and was looking like, we got a lot of goods that we need to push somewhere. Let's send them to the EU. And the EU was going, whoa, well, that's probably not going to be good for us. If it's not good for the rest of the world, and particularly the U.S., we sure can't absorb a bunch of Chinese stuff here on our soil. So that's what that's kind of talking about. And Trump saying, look, I'm in no end to rush the talks on this. So let's take it to one other story that we have right here. And we'll get to the new number later this week. This is a site on YouTube, the China Observer. Some people claim that it's anti-China because it does tend to show the parts of China that we don't get to see. It's pulled from Chinese social media. How they get their information, I don't know, but it looks legit. And it's talking about how the U.S. tariffs are really hurting the people of China. And remember, our issue is government to government. It isn't person to person. We don't play that game of hating on people. We just don't do that. There's no future in that. But we can certainly not like the governance in either country, our country or their country, as it might be, as it affects our personal lives and the future of our children. There's nothing wrong with that. That's that people ticks, how politics affects economics and economics affects us. So whether or not we believe that this particular YouTube site is anti-China or they're just freedom fighters trying to get the word out, I'll leave that to anyone to believe. But according to their claims, the economy in China is not good for everyday working type of people. And that I believe. I believe it's not good for working class folks here. We've really been stressed since the Chinese virus was released and we started shutting things down. And who was it that put the blue thing in front of her face from Michigan that she didn't want people to see her talking to the president when he's trying to save jobs of people in her state? What was her name? Anyway, it escapes me, but we need to stop playing politics and do what's right for people. So here's another one we're talking about. I look for China tariffs 245%. You see a lot of noise, anything that will get you clicking on their websites to see what they have to say. The whole world is watching, which is going to put some tremendous pressure on Xi Jinping. Look at the thumbnail here. Trump says 7,000. Xi Jinping is going to 8,000. They're showing them both drawn as very old men. Someone needs to be reasonable, and we certainly have been. I think it's setting things out so that we want fairness and we want to end to the bullying, but I think the rest of the world realizes what an economic bully China has been with the money manipulation and all that. And yes, it may cause some short-term inflation. That's reasonable. We can believe that. But will it be a long-range fix? Because remember, if you have an addiction, like for a lot of people in the United States, we're addicted to opium, other people's money. So the handouts become not a hand up, but a handout to keep people in their place. We can see people who do have a chemical addiction, be it alcohol or food or sugar, or they're carbo addicted, that kind of thing. It doesn't matter what it is. Some people get addicted to exercise and ruin their muscles. I got a surgeon friend of mine who says that they do about 2-week biceps reattachment because people are trying to lift too much. They're addicted to exercise, body modification, that sort of thing. Anything that you try to break a bad habit is difficult. And we might see some temporary pains, but will we emerge so much healthier on the other side? If we don't break this dependency, we're just going to be working for our next fix of $7 curtains, right? So that's where we're headed to be. That's not my thoughts on it. So we have that. So I promised you that I would show you how this threat, this war that's going on, as people want to classify it, is just what's it going to take to get China to stop being stubborn and come to talk in good faith with our president. How is this going to be good for you? I'm glad you asked, because I have something right here. Let's go to it right now. This is from Trading Economics, the National Association of Home Builders Housing Market Index. This was released yesterday, and as we can see, it's going back up. Now, we were down in August, and the index was down in August. It's come back up. That's just, it's cyclic. We have some changes. But what is the issue? Well, if we come down here and we look, and we wanted to look at March, April, May, right? Actual, we haven't had May yet, but we have the actual, we have the previous, we have the consensus, that was the thought, and the forecast. So it does show that for April, which we were just finished up, I guess, March, that we're expecting one more than what we had. We were expecting a little more from the forecast according to the March numbers, and what we'll read up at the top is an explanation of what's going on. It says, and I'll have this so I can zoom in on this. It says the National Association of Home Builders, Wells Fargo Housing Market Index in the United States edged up. That's going up in April from 39 to 40. It went up 1 point. In March, above forecast of 37. Growing economic uncertainty. Here's the part we want to look at. Growing economic uncertainty stemming from tariff concerns. Oh, that bad orange man. And elevated building material costs kept builder sentiment in the negative territory, right? It's not rosy. There's got a little uncertainty. Despite a modest bump in confidence, likely due to slight retreat in mortgage interest rates in recent weeks, when asked about the impact of tariffs on their business, 60%, that's more than half, 60% of builders reported their suppliers have already increased or announced increases in material prices due to tariffs. Bad orange man again, trying to get us off that Chinese opium that's coming in here with that manipulated money. On average, suppliers have increased their prices by 6.3% in response to announced, enacted, or expected tariffs. This means builders estimate a total cost affected from tariffs of about $11,000 per home. The sub-index gauging current sales conditions rose 2 points to 45. The gauge charted traffic, prospective buyers, increased 1 point to 25, while the component measuring sales expectations in the next 6 months fell 4 points to 43. Now, there was another article that said that part of what they're doing is home builders are believing that they need to go ahead and sell their homes now, get some of their inventory off their books out to the people. And so they're actually, even though they're projecting the replacement stock or the replacement homes that they're going to build will cost more money, they're also interested in getting some capital freed up, getting some of those homes sold now. Now, there was another article, which I don't have a subscription to, but if we want to go look at Market Watch had a quote that were saying that was their analysis, that people were trying very much to get some of that inventory off their books to give them some economic freedom. And that makes it good for a potential home buyer, right? And if it puts a little bit of squelching on the growth of housing prices for new houses, which are a substitute for existing, that's going to likely bring some of that down temporarily at a time where we need it the most. Remember, it's the third week in April, which is historically our busiest week in retail home sales. What do you think? In that new or used retail home sales versus the industrial or the investor class type thing. All right, well, that's it. Let's go look at our numbers for this week. Well, all right. Well, let's just go look at that real quick. I don't want to spend time on it. Builders expect tariffs to increase costs by nearly $11,000, but they're slashing home prices. Here is why. This is obviously from Market Watch. It is yesterday. Arthwari Swamithan. I butcher his name every time I try to pronounce it. I apologize. I'm not making fun of him. But we go down here to this paragraph right here. But builders are also concerned about their ability to sell homes. They have a considerable backlog of finished homes as well as homes under construction. They expect home buying demand to stay relatively weak because of economic uncertainty. They will likely affect buyers' decisions to purchase homes. So, what are we saying? They're saying that, yeah, we're not sure we can free up this inventory, so you need to buy our home. So we're going to drop our prices just a little bit more flexible because it's a little bit more of a buyer's market than a seller's market. It's kind of that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. That's what kids say. What's your feels? What's it given? It's given that the new home manufacturers are wanting to be a little more friendly with some of their homes. And that's also going to affect the existing homes because, people like to buy new as opposed to used if they can. But sometimes you get a little bit bigger existing and reasonably fresh than you can if you were to buy a new outright for the money. So it's just all what you want, where you want it at. We'll see what we can find. Anyway, let's get to those numbers. Hello, I'm Delbridge of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you are currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side and room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel, CallDelToSell. That's 1 L and Del, no spaces. Watch the demo on Real Scout and then call me and we'll set up your exclusive ad-free account today. Well, alrighty. What do you say what our numbers are? From last week, 410 of 25. 23,717 were the opportunities that we had in the marketplace, and we had 4725 in the under contract still showing. Both of those numbers increased, but we didn't move off the integer relationship between them at 20%. This week, 4/17/25, we have 24,127, and that is an increase over the previous week. 4687 were the under contract still showing. That actually dipped a little bit, so they moved in opposite directions, and the integer ratio did drop to 19. So there we have it. We have our numbers for the day. Yeah, it's not that hard to find your silver lining if you look. You never want to be overly optimistic, and we don't want to be overly pessimistic. Hiding your head in the sand is not good any more than thinking the world is sunshines and lollipops, because somewhere between the extremes is where the middle and most of us live. Glad you stopped in to visit. Hope to see you next week. See ya. Bye.